What's up, everybody? Welcome to Philly with John Marks on PHLY. Man, presented by Bet Parks and Central City Toyota. Some Eagles odds, Super Bowl odds coming up in 1 second. It is colder than a witch's, as somebody once said outside. Yes. How many of you losers out there are going to take a picture of your phone, your iPhone, like me? I did this morning. I took a picture with the 1 degree in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, where I live. Just because when I go back, not to post it on social media or anything like that, just because when I go back and with my kids, I like to go back and look like, all right, well, like where were we a year ago from today? Where were we 3 years ago from today? And to pull it up and it'll be like, oh, that's where we were. It was cold as all hell. So it is cold. I am shoveled out. I am snow blowed out. I'm a salter. I'm a rock. I forget the kind of salt that I got, but it's like it was a lot for a big bag of it. But I'm a salter. I make sure there's no ice. I don't need any slip and fall. I don't need any lawsuits or anything like that. The door blew open on my minivan. My mom was with me when my wife was away on business. My mom was with me. And the door blew open on the minivan. Check this out, Tyler. So the door it's been very, very windy this winter, right? It's been terribly windy, annoyingly windy. And the minivan door blew open as my mom, she got out, it blew open and it smacked a car next to us. Like a boom. And I heard it. I'm like, let's go over, look at it. And there was a blemish. Not a dent, a big dent or anything. There was a blemish that if the person who wasn't sitting in the car wasn't in there, I probably wouldn't have said anything. Just keeping it real. But she was sitting in the car. I'm like, oh God. So she's looking back or whatever. And so she gets out of the car and it's not her car. I guess she was the nanny or something. We were doing daycare pickup, or not daycare, but nursery school pickup. So I think she was like the nanny picking the kid up. So she's like, well, this isn't my car. And I'm like, well, just take my number and whatever. So she took my number. I didn't take a picture of it because I don't know why. It was freezing cold and windy. I just wanted to get the hell out of there and pick up my kid and go. And so a week later, I get a text message. And this is last week. I get a text message from the car owner like, hey, I took it in for an estimate. Like an estimate? Like send me a picture of what I'm dealing with. So I can't wait to see what. So this winter already with the wind and the cold is really annoying. So anyway. The hell with that. I hope everybody is doing well out there and safe. My kids are also 2 hours late to school today because of the cold and the wind and everything else. So I'll be driving home and picking them up and taking them to school. All right. So I was surprised. I was surprised, but also happy about it. When I went, I was looking at the line for the Eagles, obviously, when it first came out, and the Eagles were 5.5 points over the Commanders. It dipped down to Eagles -5 yesterday. And I'm like, oh, man. All right, kind of expected. I thought it would go down 0.5 point or a point. And then I looked this morning on the BetParks app right now. The Eagles are 6.5 point favorites. 6.5 point favorites. So money obviously flew in towards the Eagles, and the odds makers tried to correct it quickly by bumping that number up. But I was also surprised to see the Eagles are Super Bowl favorites. I'm not huge Super Bowl favorites, but still, they're plus 180. So if you don't know how this works, if you bet $100 and the Eagles win the Super Bowl, you would win $180. The Chiefs are plus 230. The Bills are plus 250. And the Commanders are plus 750. I'm just telling you, if I'm placing 2 bets on who's winning the Super Bowl, it's the Eagles and the Commanders. Because the Commanders is really good value. If the Commanders were to beat the Eagles, they can win the Super Bowl. They're not that far off from winning the Super Bowl. They got to beat the Eagles, and obviously we'll talk about that all week long. But that was Tyler Zulli, my producer, joins me. Are you surprised that the Eagles? Because I told you this morning, and you're like, the Eagles are the favorites to win the Super Bowl. I can speak on the BetParks app, which is similar to the other apps that are out there as far as odds. Right now, the Eagles are Super Bowl favorites plus 180 to win the Super Bowl. Good morning, Tyler.
Yeah, good morning to you as well. I am surprised, and not because I don't think the Eagles are a good team. I do think the Eagles are a very, very good team, but I am surprised that the favorite is not the Kansas City Chiefs. That was my initial thought.
I am too.
They've lost once this year. They are winning games in every conceivable way possible, and they just continue to roll and continue to roll and continue to roll. And they have won. They're looking for a three-peat, right? And that's something that hasn't ever happened. I'm surprised that they're not the favorite based on Patrick Mahomes, based on Andy Reid, based on that defense, based on ref ball.
The refs.
Based on all of it combined, I'm really kind of stunned that they're not the favorites.
Yeah. Aren't the Chiefs and the Eagles similar in that everybody's with the Eagles is, oh, they can't win like this. They can't win like this. The Chiefs are the same way. Look, they're winning every game close for the most part. They're tight games. Their offense isn't great. Certainly they're winning with their defense. But is it sustainable? Yeah, it is. I mean, they won like this last year too. Are people forgetting that the Chiefs, they weren't carried by their offense last year? This isn't Pat Mahomes 50 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. It's Pat Mahomes when you need a big drive. Pat Mahomes is still a great player. It's the defense is leading this team. So also in the BetParks app right now, I thought this was incredibly cool. They have the point spreads for all the matchups in the Super Bowl. All right? So Eagles right now 6.5-point favorites over Washington. The Chiefs are 2-point favorites over the Bills. So Tyler Zulli, I'm going to ask you, if the Eagles and the Bills were the matchup right now, what would you put the line at?
Yeah,
it's up right now.
It's funny because I think the number that I would give you is going to be different now that I know that the Eagles are favorites to win the Super Bowl. I would say the Eagles are 3.5-point favorites over Buffalo.
So perhaps I should have led with the because the Bills are plus 250. So they're 1-point favorites over the Bills.
Okay.
Right now,
because I would have said that it's a pretty close pick'em type of game. One makes sense. That's why when you said that they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl, I assumed all of their odds would get.
So here's why: because they're heavy favorites to win the NFC.
That makes sense.
The Bills and the Chiefs are kind of split. So if the Eagles do win, now there's no Bills-Chiefs split. Now there's one team that's going to be facing them. So the Eagles are 1-point favorites over the Bills. If it was the Eagles and the Chiefs, what would the point spread be?
I think the Eagles are probably would be dogs in that game, but now I'm starting to second guess myself.
Don't second guess yourself.
They should be dogs in that game. I would say probably 1.5 to 2.5 in that range. Favorites Kansas City.
Chiefs -1.
Okay.
So your instincts were dead on. So if the Eagles play the Bills, and this is right now, if the Eagles were to play the Bills, and this is a point spread you can bet on right now, they're 1-point favorites. They'd be 1-point dogs against the Chiefs. The Bills, if they played Washington, would be 4.5-point favorites, and the Chiefs, if they played Washington, would be 4-point favorites. So there you go. Right now the Eagles they still have to play the game. Washington was just a huge underdog to Detroit, and you saw how that game worked out. And I am not taking this game lightly at all. I've seen a lot of overconfidence from some Eagles fans on social media, which isn't real life. I know that, but still, Eagles should win the game. I have confidence the Eagles are going to win the game, but I also realize this is a Washington team that has won 7 straight games. So I am not. I was at and we'll talk about it this week because the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia brings up a lot of memories. I went to the NFC Championship game against Tampa, the last game at Veterans Stadium for the Eagles. Talk about confidence in a game. I tried to bet my house. I didn't have a house, but I tried. The bookie was so friggin' scared. He was taking so much Eagles money. He wouldn't. I tried a big money line bet. He wouldn't take it. And it was like, all right, you know what? He should have. But he was worried about getting cashed out. He had every Eagle fan trying to bet the Eagles, and he probably didn't have the bankroll to fund it. But I was so confident in that game. No, I don't have that kind of confidence in this game. Maybe it's because I'm older and I'm wiser, or maybe it's because I've seen what Jayden Daniels has done over the course of this season. He's a friggin' rookie that's a game away from going to the Super Bowl, and he's literally breaking records doing this. So it's Tuesday. We're going to talk about it today. We'll talk about it for the rest of the week. But I wanted to play something from Nick Saban that he had on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. They were live before the national championship game. And Nick Saban, it's crazy. Jalen Hurts was benched. He left Alabama, went to Oklahoma. But yet when he talks about Nick Saban, when you talk to him about Nick Saban, when you hear him talk, a lot of people will say that's exactly from Nick Saban. That's Nick Saban. That's Nick Saban. The cliches, the kind of football speak that he says, a lot of these things are Nick Saban. And he's a Nick Saban guy that transferred, and I give Jalen all the credit in the world for transferring and going to Oklahoma and having success and moving on from that. But the way he talks about Alabama is like he graduated from Alabama and he never left and everything else. And Nick Saban also, I love the guy. I love the way that he's honest, and you can tell as a coach, and having worked with Ike Reese for so many years, who played for Nick Saban in Michigan State, which was granted like 30 years ago, or was it even longer than that? But it was in the 90s. I'm sure he's changed and evolved since then. But man, like he coaches you hard. And here's a story from Nick Saban, because he was asked about Jalen Hurts and the running, and he gets into Jalen Hurts, the passer. So here's Nick Saban on the Pat McAfee show yesterday.
Yeah, well, I think he's doing the things they need to do to win. I mean, they're a running football team. I mean, that's what the Philadelphia Eagles are. They got Saquon Barkley. They run it. Jalen can run it, which he had a big play last night as a runner. So you got to make people defend that, and then you got to throw the ball effectively enough in play action game. And I think Jalen is a good enough passer to do all those things. I think the one thing, and this is any athletic quarterback and every one of them, and when Jalen was with us, we would have team and 7-on-7. And I would say,
pause it. So pause it right there. He gets into how he tried to combat it. I mean, it's hardly a ringing endorsement of Jalen Hurts, the passer, so far. The one thing that he said, and he's right, he's doing what they need to do to win. And the running, teams haven't beat him doing this style of play. Now, they have to win, though. And now he's compromised with the knee. So the whole running thing now changes. All right, here's more Nick Saban.
7-on-7. And I would say, you cannot run. You cannot scramble. You have to throw the ball on time. And because these guys are so athletic, they see the rush coming and they think they can scramble and get out of it. And a couple of those sacks that he took last night, he took them because in normal circumstances, no snow, no bad knee, all that, he probably would have been able to escape and get away and make a play. And he's done that so much in his career, it's hard to tell a guy, hey, don't do that. But I was trying to train him to become a better on-time passer, by not allowing him to do it in practice. And I think he improved in that regard, but he's still a great athlete, and those guys are going to make plays, and you can't take that away from him.
Listen to the tone that he says, and I think he's improved in that regard. And there has been improvement for sure, but he's not where he needs to be. If they win the Super Bowl, none of this is going to matter. Even if they make the Super Bowl, right? Like, it's still effective. They're still winning. But there's nobody out there that can argue that if Jalen Hurts was a better passer right now, that the team wouldn't be better off. He's not an on-time passer. He doesn't throw the spots. He very rarely, he did it with A.J. Brown on that back shoulder that he threw, or he underthrew it. I don't know. It was in the snow. Like it's hard to really judge anything from that. But I think everybody would agree that Jalen Hurts may be the best game manager we've ever seen, and he does what's necessary to win games, and that's all that matters. If you lose games, then that's all that matters too. And here's what I saw from Jalen Hurts, albeit in the snow, but this is kind of a trend, right? And Nick Saban's 1,000% right. When the athletic quarterback, and I don't want to term it athletic in that, well, they can't throw the ball, but at the first sign of distress or pressure in the pocket, their immediate reaction is to move your feet, boom, go make a play. And when it's effective, like Michael Vick for so many years in Atlanta, you're going to have success and you're going to make big plays, but ultimately, can you win like that unless you evolve? Lamar Jackson's evolved. Lamar Jackson's he's taken off because he's a dynamic playmaker. He can throw the ball fine. That's not a problem with Lamar Jackson. But here's what Jalen's doing right now that I see when there's pressure or there's a breakdown in the pocket a little bit. In 2022, he maneuvered around, he stepped up, and he confidently threw the ball. And that's what you saw in the Super Bowl. That's what you saw leading up to the Super Bowl. His development as a quarterback in the second half of 2022 was great. But in 2023, he started sensing pressure. He started feeling pressure. Sometimes it wasn't even there, and he got back into those bad habits, especially if the knee's compromised. He can't do that. you got to have more confidence in the pocket. You got to step up. Like, you got to be able to maneuver around in there. There's open receivers if you hang on. He's not hanging on. And again, if they win the Super Bowl, hey, I got no issue. It's been effective so far. And this is such a good team with the running of Saquon Barkley, with the talent that they have on offense, with the offensive line, and with the defense. Really, this is the biggest thing. The defense being dominant. They can get away with it for right now. If they don't get away with it, it's going on Jalen Hurts, because I guarantee you this, that if you're not winning, they ain't paying Jalen Hurts $50 million a year to play like this at quarterback, not to be a game manager. They're not paying. The Eagles are not paying Jalen Hurts this much money to throw the ball 15 times. And if it's effective and it works, absolutely. And we're right now, it's like it's effective and it's working. But you can't lose a game because Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball. And I haven't seen him. That hasn't happened. And I'm not saying that it's happened. But I'm just like, I'm putting it out there right now. These are things that concern me. These are things that concern me this year and going forward. But Tyler, so far so good. They've been winning games. They're like, can they continue to win like this? Yeah, I think they can continue to win like this. And that's all they've been doing.
That's why I asked you that question yesterday, and I do believe that to be the case. And we talked about at the beginning of the postseason. In order to win a Super Bowl, you're going to have to play, 3 or 4 really good teams. Now, I think the Packers were a good team who played poorly, and maybe it was because they played poorly because the Eagles defense played so well in the wild card round. The Eagles ran the ball effectively. They played good defense, and they protected the football. Win. In the game on Sunday, they played the Rams. Snow played a part, but the Eagles ran the ball well. They played good defense, and they protected the football. Win. And so when you continue to have these conversations about, what is expected of your quarterback and what is expected of your team as a whole, I understand the idea to win a Super Bowl is like, 30 for 37 for 345 yards and 3 scores. Well, what if it is play excellent defense and run for 200 plus yards and protect the football and beat a Washington team that is extremely hot right now, but that I believe you're better than, and go to the Super Bowl? And then you talk about you're going to play a really good team. You're either playing Buffalo or Kansas City, really, really good team, and you're playing a very hot, confident football team this weekend. But I believe you're better than them. And if you play your game and you're successful in your game, you're going to the Super Bowl. You're talking about a team that is, on the doorstep of winning a Super Bowl for the second time in 3 years. Not winning for the second time in 3 years, but having an opportunity to win for the second time in 3 years. Isn't that what we ask for as a fan base, is to compete and to compete at a high level and to have a chance to win a Super Bowl? And to say you've played in 2 and 3 years, yes, it's 2 very different Jalen Hurts play. 2022, you're correct. Jalen Hurts was utterly confident in 2022. And it's why heading into that game against the Chiefs, even as good as that Chiefs team was, I was utterly confident that they were going to win that Super Bowl. I felt like I was actually kind of shocked that they lost that game. That's how confident I was. It's a different level. It's a different feel. It's a different confidence with this team, but it's maybe a more complete team because of how good the defense is, because of how good the run game is. It might be a more complete Eagles team this year, with the fact that, statistically speaking, Jalen Hurts is not the 2022 Jalen Hurts, but they continue to win games.
So what matters? What's crazy? It made me think of something that I was looking at yesterday. The formula for Buffalo is a lot like the Eagles right now, except their defense isn't good. Josh Allen threw for 127 yards in the win over Baltimore. Lamar Jackson didn't. This trend of, you need especially in the playoffs, you need this passer to throw for 400 yards, and that's how you win. Josh Allen threw for 127 yards on 22 attempts. They had 36 rushes. And obviously, Allen is a big part of that, in particular in the red zone. Hey, similar to what the Eagles do with Jalen Hurts.
So let me ask you a question, because we're talking about all of these different quarterbacks. Of the entire scope of the postseason so far, if you had to pick one game and one quarterback who had the best individual quarterback performance of the wild card and division round, what game and what quarterback would you pick? I know it's a weird question. I'm trying to set up a discussion piece here.
Maybe Jayden Daniels.
I think I'm taking Jayden Daniels against the Lions, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was the most complete poised quarterback game that we've seen from any quarterback thus far. But you brought it up, right? Lamar turned the ball over 3 times on Sunday. Josh Allen threw for 127 yards. Jordan Love was dreadful against the Eagles. Jared Goff, they scored 31 points, but they also turned the ball over 5 times as a team in that game. Sam Darnold was awful. Justin Herbert was terrible.
Awful.
Patrick Mahomes had that incredible escape, Patrick Mahomes type play, but he didn't throw for a ton of yards in the win against the Houston Texans. My point being is, like, the quarterback play in the postseason has been okay.
It's different, man. It's changed.
It's reliant upon good defense, good run game, protect the football. And outside of Jayden Daniels, who I think probably has been the best quarterback in the postseason so far, I think it's a lot of limit your mistakes, and run effectively and play good defense. Now, Jared Goff's team put up a lot of points, but they turned the ball over 5 times. You can't win that way.
No, you cannot. 4 interceptions. 1 wasn't him. And Ben Johnson he shouldn't have gotten that Bears job just based on that call, having Jamison Williams throw it. Desperation. All right, so listen, we'll do some headlines coming up because there's a lot going on in the sports world. Also, the coaching carousel in the NFL I have right here. A former Eagle is moving up in the coaching ranks, possibly. I'll tell you who that is coming up after this. A lot going on. It's Philly with John Marks, PHLY. Listen, Rothman Orthopedics. It's easy to talk about Rothman when you can share a personal story as I can. As I had a frozen shoulder. I never heard of a frozen shoulder. Same shoulder. 20 years ago, I partially tore my rotator cuff. So I thought it was like, is it a rotator cuff? And there's a lot of reasons why you would get a frozen shoulder. But really, it hurts, limits mobility. I couldn't get cereal from the top of the pantry. And after like a year, I finally said, well, what am I doing? I gotta go to a doctor. So I went to Rothman. Where else would I go, right? So if you have achy joints, hands, back, knee, like anything for orthopedics, right? They have a specialty. They have a doc for you, and they had it for me, right? One appointment, legitimately one appointment. Didn't even need a follow-up. I thought I was going to need an MRI and all these other stuff. Nope. Checked it out. Yep, you have a frozen shoulder. I'll write you a script for physical therapy. I did it right there at the Limerick location. 6 weeks of physical therapy. My shoulder's been fine since then. Think about that. If you're dealing with knee, ankle, elbow, shoulder, if you're a golf player but you don't play as much anymore because it's like, oh, your shoulder's all banged up or your elbow's banged up, you can get that treated, right? Like I did. Don't be a hard head and say like, oh, but no, like contact Rothman. They specialize in orthopedics and they specialize in you. You can get pain-free. Over 50 years, Rothman has been the leader in the industry. And it's a one-stop shop there. X-rays, bracings, MRIs, physical therapy, and more. From diagnosis to discharge, they provide you, their patient, with every service and procedure that is necessary. Hip replacement, knee replacement, shoulder, elbow, foot, ankle, hand, wrist, sports medicine, physical medicine, rehab. They do it all. Trauma and fracture care. Rothman Orthopedics. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and to make an appointment today. All right. We were talking about Bet earlier. Parks Casino. And I'm telling you that you don't always see lines like this that are out there. So I'm on the Bet app. Like I get on every morning and I'm looking. So right now, yeah, you can take Philadelphia -6.5. Or you can also, you're saying, you know what? Philadelphia, Buffalo, Eagles, -1 point. I'm going to hop on that right now. You can bet on it. Bet app. Philadelphia, Kansas City, they're point underdogs. That's tough. So there's futures with the point lines. Right now, Philadelphia +180 as Super Bowl favorites. That's all in the Bet app right now. And really, like you can do it all from the NBA to college hoops. And also, like, what they got going on at Parks Casino in the Excite Center. Check it out. Everything that they do. ParksCasino.com and right on your phone, right on the Bet app. Blackjack, craps, poker, roulette, hot online slots, right on your phone, right on live dealer. So the table games are live dealers. All right. BetParks.com for details. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Maryland. For the Bet Parks app, gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. There we go. All right. Well, some stuff going on. I honestly, when I get to this point of the NBA season and the NHL season, with the Eagles still being in the playoffs, there's very few other things that I'm paying attention to at all. I'm so focused. I'm analyzing lines. I'm looking at videos. But there is a lot else that's going on in the sports world. I have some of it. Tyler has some of it. It's headlines. Tyler, what do you have?
Yeah, let's get to it. Our headlines are brought to us by our friends over at Glad Hair Restoration. They're not just about restoration. They also are about our innovation as well. So if you want to improve how you look and how you feel, head on over to gladhairmctr.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started. Well, one thing you're not going to have to keep an eye on for 215 days, John, is college football. As the national championship last night, the number 8 seed Ohio State beats the number 7 seed Notre Dame 34-23 to win the national championship. Will Howard completed a college football playoff record, 13 consecutive passes to start the game. He ends up going 17 for 21. He throws 231 and 2 scores. Quinyon Judkins with 2 touchdowns on the ground and 1 through the air. He had 100 yards on the day as well. Jeremiah Smith with 88 led the way for Ohio State. The Buckeyes complete the 14-2 season and defeat Notre Dame to win their first national title since the rotating panel of quarterbacks that did it. JT Barrett, or was it Braxton Miller to JT Barrett to Cardell Jones, I believe it was the order. But the Buckeyes are your national champions.
So Notre Dame comes out, they score a touchdown on a 10-minute drive. And it's like, you can see the formula for how they're going to win. They're going to control the football. They already scored. Ohio State scores 31 straight after that. Yep. Going into the fourth quarter, 31-7. Well, actually, no, Notre Dame did score before that. But, once they clicked it into high gear, they were rolling. And Notre Dame came back a little bit there at the end. They're a quality team. That was a quality year from them. Ohio State was just rolling. Their offense was rolling.
Humming. Yep.
Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator, gets a national championship ring.
Gross. Hate it. Hate the fact that Ohio State won the national title. Makes my blood boil. But to be fair, John, I do think that they were probably the most talented team in college football all season.
You were saying it all year, man.
And listen, $24 million in NIL money will do that for you. I don't know if you're going to get a collection of players this good again on one team because of NIL now. I think it'll be more spaced out as NIL and the college football playoff goes on. But the one thing I will say, John, is the thing about Ohio State that I think people overlook because of the fact that they're really, really talented. They've got 2 really good running backs. Jeremiah Smith is probably already the best receiver in college football, is how efficient they are and just how they chop up games into these bite-sized pieces, right? Because you bring up the 75-play, 9-minute, 45-second drive from Notre Dame. John, there were 7 drives. Really 6 drives, because the last one was 1 play for Notre Dame in the first half. So Notre Dame goes 18 plays for 75 yards. Ohio State responds with 11 plays and 75 yards in 6 minutes. Notre Dame goes 3 and out. Ohio State goes 10 for 76 in 6 minutes. Notre Dame goes 3 and out. Ohio State goes 12 for 80 in 4.5. They took off almost 18 minutes of gameplay in 3 drives. You pair that with the fact that Notre Dame had a 10-minute drive to start the game. This is how Ohio State beat teams all year. I look back at the Penn State game. They lost 20-13. Penn State did to Ohio State. It felt like they lost by 40. Yeah. And they only lost by a touchdown because there was only 5 possessions in the second half. And Ohio State just chops you up and chops you up and chops you up and then hits you with the big play. But they were 9 of 12 on 3rd down last night.
Yeah.
They don't leave the field.
It was clear that they were the best team in college football. So they are the national champions. And Bryce Harper, I'm sure, was celebrating with something he was making for TikTok.
Yes,
he's now an influencer.
Raw milk concoction of some kind.
He likes to make the coffee drinks and things like that. And Braun, I know, was celebrating because I saw him celebrating, drinking something. So there you go. So Ryan Day, do we have the video, Tyler? Ryan Day is... Yeah, I'm sure that everything that happened on the field took forever, right? Because you're getting the presentation and everything. So he comes into the locker room in the area where he's a golf cart's driving him. He's actually going to the post-game press conference, and some schmuckos out there videoing him, and here's what happened.
You deserve it, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
for our audio listeners on podcast, that was so the golf cart comes in. The staffer that's trying to take like a slight left turn goes right into a wall, and then they can't get the cart. She hit it pretty fast, so they can't get the cart off of the wall. So, but there was some Ohio State. I want to call him a hoagie mouth, but I know they don't have hoagies in Ohio State. But
Yeah, bro, love you.
But play it again. It's like, yeah, congratulations, man. You really deserved it. Boom, and they crash right into the wall.
You know what? I find it so funny too. Is they smoke the wall, and then the lady driving realizes like the cart is crushed, and she just takes off.
Right.
She's just like, "We're walking. Get out."
Will Howard's like. He exits the vehicle. They just take
laughing. The only thing I could think of when I saw that clip is the scene in Austin Powers where they're trying to do the K turn in the cart, but the hallway's like this big and the cart's like this big, and he's like,
same thing.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could think of when I saw that clip. I thought it was hysterical.
Poor cart driving, but yeah, congratulations, man. You deserve it. It's awesome. Yeah, so they go. One other thing here, then we'll move on. I heard somebody on the radio this morning say that Ohio State fans would still have rather beaten Michigan than win the national title, which which is crazy, and who knows with that rivalry. I'm not in that rivalry, so I can say that maybe there's Ohio State fans that still will look at it and be like, yeah, we won the national championship, but damn it, Michigan still beat us. Like I could maybe see that, but there's nobody out there this morning that's still mad that they lost to Michigan.
No,
not celebrating this. Like,
no,
come on.
I think there's a sense of like if your team's bad. I always said this with the Flyers. If your team is bad, it's like, oh, the Flyers stink, but man, if they beat the Penguins a couple times a year, at least you get that feel good feel.
If they smoke Sidney Crosby, if a third liner smokes him against the board.
But if you're good and you're playing, like, there's no way that means more to you than winning a national championship. There's just no way.
All right, what else do we have there,
so the 6 or 7 opportunity tonight to snap a 6-game losing streak, probably unlikely to happen as they head to Denver to take on the Nuggets. And the Sixers have not won a game back since they beat the Wizards 109-103 on January 8th. So it's been almost 2 weeks since they've won a game. They'll take on Denver tonight, who is 26-16 on the regular season. The Sixers now 11 games under 500. And John, I don't know if you caught the Sixers show last night or yesterday with the guys.
No,
they're starting to feel about maybe shutting Embiid down for the year.
Yeah, they absolutely should. Yep. No, it's a no-brainer. Their draft picks is top 7 protected. If Embiid comes back and he's healthy, which, like, I'm just so tired of talking about it, they can make a push to make the playoffs. They're not friggin' winning a championship. They're not going to the Eastern Conference Finals. They're not going to the NBA Finals. Like, stop. We're not doing this. Shut them the hell down. Who cares? Get that draft pick. Get that high draft pick. Maybe it's a player that can help you going forward. Because I know this. And I'm already post Embiid. I'm already the Joel Embiid window that he's gone. I need strategy to move on from him. I can't do this anymore. But like, you need to start getting players that can play in the future. I think you have 2 really talented young guards. Now we need some additional players. Paul George looks like he's broken down. I honestly, like, I feel bad for Kyle and Devon and Derek and anybody else out there that is a 76er fan to where they're still talking about him. I can't do it. I don't even want to watch him anymore.
Well, I feel terrible because we've talked about, like, the last 2 weeks, the last 2 Sundays, they've had to do a post-game show, basically that bookended the Eagles' playoff games. And I'm like, guys, I feel so bad. I feel terrible.
Well, we are there for the diehards because there are people out there that live and die and want to torture themselves with this freaking team.
All right, let's talk about a team that has been playing pretty well recently. The Flyers are winners of 4 of their last 5. They have an opportunity to go for 5 of 6 tonight when they take on the Detroit Red Wings. They'll be back home for just the 1 game, and then they take a little New York road trip, and then the following 3 days they'll play against the Rangers at Madison Square Garden on Thursday. Then they'll go on the island and take on the Islanders on Friday night before they're back home for a home-and-home against the Devils. So a lot of, after tonight against the Red Wings, a lot of Metropolitan games coming up in the foreseeable future for the Flyers.
Yeah. I'll check back in with both teams coming up after the Super Bowl. So how many weeks are we away from the Super Bowl?
We are 3.
They have the bye week,
right? Yeah, so
they have the bye week.
2.5, right? So you have the NFC Championship, AFC Championship this week.
Almost 3.
Bye week in between, and then the following week.
Does PHLY go to the Super Bowl?
I believe I'm not going to give anything away, but I believe that may be in the works.
Yeah.
I think that may be part of the conversation.
PHLY, everybody but us?
Now, see, I don't know. I don't know who's going. I think it'll obviously depend on if the Eagles make it or not. If they make it, who knows? If they don't, I think it may just be the Eagles crew going to cover the Super Bowl.
Okay. Oh, I mean, that's very cool. I love, one thing about me, I love Radio Rows. It's one of my favorite things ever. Whether it's the Army-Navy Radio Row, I went to a NCAA finals. When I first started at WIP, I was working nights for a couple months, and they sent me out because they're like, yeah, if you want to go out, like Westwood One pays for it or whatever. I'm like, hell yeah, I do. So I went out to Phoenix, and I was on the radio row for that. I've been on UFC radio rows. I've been on boxing radio rows.
How was Radio Row in Minnesota when it was like -4 degrees out and you had to walk to the Mall of America?
It was one of not probably. It's the best sports experience of my life, but one of the best experiences of my life. Oh my God. Well, they had a bus that took us from the hotel.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. I didn't walk because you could see the Mall of America from where we were staying, but it's probably like a 20-minute walk. And so here's one thing. I went outside to like FaceTime with who? I mean, I guess I had two at the time. Yeah, but I like to FaceTime with my wife. My girls were really young, and the phone froze. If it's a certain temperature outside, it freezes and it stops working.
Sure.
So the phone froze. I walked outside and by the way, it's friggin' cold out this morning. It was cold out this morning. The phone froze, but most of the time in the radio rows, there's lots of room. Like in Phoenix, the last time the Eagles were in the Super Bowl, there's lots of room. It's at a convention center. You have plenty of room between you and the next table and everything else. We were in the food court of the Mall of America. Like, think about being in King of Prussia and being in the food court and then the outskirts of the food court in the King of Prussia Mall, or pick your mall.
It's just radio shows happening.
Bro, there was a friggin' Cinnabons. I could have thrown my pencil at a Cinnabons and gotten it behind the counter. That's how close we were. And it was awesome because it was complete chaos. I had, like, we had everybody, but it was unbelievable. Like, Dan Marino, we didn't get Dan Marino, but Dan Marino, like, walking through Radio Row, and Ike is like, that's his, like, maybe #1 all-time athlete. Just seeing Dan Marino, it's like, that's Dan Marino, and he's standing 5 feet from me while I'm on the air. There's Busta Rhymes, who is a really big individual. You don't realize, and like you can just tell, like the way he carries himself. It's a larger than life. It was unbelievable. Now Phoenix, I didn't like Phoenix. I saw Carrot Top walk by.
Oh wow! Woo.
And I took a picture of him.
Well, you know, it's funny when you bring up Dan Marino, right? Everybody, even in this industry, we all have a couple of people who, because we were fans first, right? Before we were whatever we are, we were fans first. So there's like a couple of people everybody has that you go, okay, I gotta be cool. I gotta like be professional because otherwise my fan is gonna come out. I have two. Brian Dawkins is the #1 for me, always has been, and then Chase Utley's the other one. So those are two guys I grew up idolizing, watching the games, and those were my guys, right? They were like the heroes for me of my childhood for the teams that I grew up watching. So I haven't met either of them yet, and I know if or when I do, that's going to be like the test of my professional mettle. Is like, how calm can I be and not be, you know, an adult, you know, fanboy.
I mean, they're like B-Doc, and I've been around them long enough to where, I mean, he's bigger now than when he played. He's a monster, but like he's another larger than life guy. Outside of seeing Chase Utley in the clubhouse and things like that, my one outside of the city was Barry Sanders. And I think for a lot of people nationally, you get a lot of Eagles fans that are not from this area because of Randall Cunningham. Randall Cunningham was that type. He was the first of his kind. He really was. He was the first super duper athletic quarterback that could do it all. He could throw the ball 70 yards. He could punt it 90 yards. He was like that for me. But my Philly guy, like, it was Pete Rose, Mike Schmidt, because those Philly teams were really, really good. Dr. J. So Dr. J would be my equivalent to you, because I interviewed him in person before a Sixers game, and it was like, that's Dr. J.
That's Dr. J. Right. Like there's an era of that's Phil and the athlete, right?
You're right. Yeah, like to me, Barry Sanders was like, it would be like that with me and Barry Sanders right now. I'd just be like, oh my God. It'd probably be like that with Randall too. And I haven't gotten a chance to interview Randall. I've met, like, I shake, like, how you doing, Randall? Pleasure to meet you. But like, it's like, holy crap. Like, that's Randall Cunningham right there. Joe Frazier's another one. Joe Frazier was, and this was before Facebook. This was like MySpace days. And I don't have a picture of it, but I have a picture of Joe Frazier where we're holding up the fists. Freaking Joe Frazier. That actually might be number one because he was bigger than life with Muhammad Ali. All right, we'll come back. Coaching Carousel. Where is everybody going? Kellen Moore. Should we wave bye-bye to him to Dallas? And also a former Eagle is moving up in the coaching ranks. We have all that coming up right after this. It's Philly, John Marks. Oh, hey, Glatt Hair Restoration. Had another viewer, and it warms my heart when people reach out to me. And whether it's email, whether it's direct message, at John, Jon, Marks, Marks Media, slide into my DMs, johnmarksmedia@gmail.com, email me. And they're like, hey, I've heard you talk about it for a long time, but I heard you say, hey, contact me with any questions. I have some questions. He wanted to see what it looked like right after the surgery. He wanted to see, or the procedure, I guess you should say. We wanted to see how long before he could go back to work. Because here's the thing. Didn't want to tell anybody. Just wanted to have it done. And believe me, you can do that. If you can finagle a couple of off days, have it done, come back, all right? Like, I can tell you from experience, I've had a ton of people in, I'll just say the media, local, national, whatever, that have went to Glatt Hair Restoration and had the procedure. Didn't tell anybody. You know why? Because you don't have to. All of a sudden, the hair looks great and you feel great. It's like, oh, your hair looks great. People don't have to know. Personally, people that are in my life in a variety of ways, family, have had this procedure done, and they didn't tell anybody because they don't want to. I don't care. I'll talk about it. Why not? Right? But they don't want to tell anybody. You can get the results without anybody knowing. Contact Glatt Hair Restoration today. And if it's not hair restoration, and this is important to point out as well, I mean, maybe you're just thinning and you're unhappy with that, but you're like, yeah, I don't want to get hair restoration. There's not just sprays, the spray that you see on Instagram that doesn't work. They're the authority in this. They're the experts in hair. That's all they do in Philly, in really the country. They're the best. So there's alternatives that can slow the thinning process, that can slow the threading, the shedding process. Glatt Hair Restoration. 610-980-4000. You can call them right now. The hair team's standing by. My girls over there. 610-980-4000. The website before and after pictures, glatthairmctr.com. That's glatthairmctr.com. I was thinking about Tyler yesterday because I was sledding and it was sunny. And you know what happens in the sun? It goes off the snow. It's very bright. And I was thinking to myself, damn it, I wish I had some Shady Rays.
You should. And honestly, I've been thinking about how the fact that I'm tired of this cold weather. I'm tired of this. I want to be on a beach. I want to be at a Phillies game. I want to be somewhere warm that I need my sunglasses because it's beautiful out, not because I'm staring at the glare of snow off the icy tundra that we live in currently. But listen, whether it is a cold day, a warm day, or anything in between, Shady Rays has you covered to keep your eyes protected. And over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars because of their durable frames and their crystal clear optics. They are your best choice for your outdoor adventure. Like you said, John, when you're sledding, you need your Shady Rays because you're just going to get the glare off the ice, and nobody needs that. So whether you're skiing, snowboarding, or you're just taking your family on a sledding adventure, Shady Rays has a brand new collection of not just sunglasses, but snow goggles as well to keep you seeing clearly and looking good, whether you're on the slopes or just the hills of your local development, whatever it might be. They are available in both adult and kid sizes. And with many colors to choose from, you will find a pair that is perfect for you. So Shady Rays comes in handy if you're thinking about going outdoors, if you're thinking about taking an adventure, or you're going to be out in the snow. Shady Rays has the best protection in all of eyewear. If they take a missing or unexpected hit, they go missing, whatever the case may be. Don't worry about it. They have an incredible protection. Every pair is backed by their lost or broken replacement guarantee. And if you don't love the pair that you buy, you can exchange them for a new pair or return it worry-free for up to 30 days. So head on over to shadyrays.com and save 35% off a pair pair of polarized sunglasses when you use the code PHLY and see for yourself why over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars at shadyrays.com.
Thank you, Tyler. Yeah, I was. We went to the. If you're a skier, they have Black Diamond, they have Intermediate, which is a square, and then they have the green circle. And because my wife was off yesterday, we instead of going to the Black Diamond sledding spot, we went to the green circle. Because the time before when we went to the Black Diamond, I didn't realize it was the Black Diamond. And there was a fence at the bottom. It's at the elementary school. There's a fence at the bottom of the hill. And if you veer off of where you should go, which is easy to do, you hit the fence at like 25 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah, you go flying. So it's funny you bring that up. We had we took we were adults. It was last winter, I think, or 2 winters ago. We took a trip to the mountains.
Right.
It was really one of those trips where you're just going to get away and drink for 3 days.
Right.
But we all went tubing, and we have a buddy who is I'm not
What,
even.
what mountain did you go to?
I don't remember.
Is it Blue?
Or
because we
probably
Jack Frost,
one of them.
Well, because I went tubing last year with my kids, and you fly down that friggin' hill, man.
We have a buddy who's like 6'8". He's a big dude, and he got down on one of the icier slopes. And you know how you hit and you have like the long runway to slow you down? He didn't slow down. He just kept going, and he took off and then launched because then they have like a big bank of snow just in case you do this, and like launched himself up the big bank of snow. It's incredible how you can get some speed.
I'm with my kids going down there, and it's like you're worried, like, all right, you're not going by yourself. Well, actually, they did go by themselves, God. But so anyway, we didn't go to the Black Diamond Hill yesterday, where we where people were flying into the fence, and we went to the Green Hill, which is fine. It was very cold yesterday outside.
Yeah,
it was. When you're all bundled up like that, I mean, honestly, then I gotta pick my 3-year-old up, and I gotta walk her up the hill while dragging the one sled. And then my other kids are like, Daddy, it's so heavy. I'm like, this thing weighs like a pound. So I got to carry 3 sleds up the hill and a kid. And then the other kids, oh, I'm so tired. So I'm sweating through my shirt. It's still wet, but I love sledding. Sledding's always been a lot of fun. The first time, it's kind of creepy. The first time the World Trade Center was bombed, which was like 1993. We had off of school because of snow. And I went to the Bryn Athyn Cathedral because it has this huge friggin' hill. And it was icy. And I slammed my knee into the ice so bad. I had like and my entire knee was black and blue. It was the day because I got home and it's like the World Trade Center got bombed, like the basement or whatever. So it was kind of creepy. All right. Head coaching searches. It's going on right now. Yesterday, Ben Johnson gets hired. Did you see, Ben, Tyler, did you see the number that is being thrown out there that he could be being hired at? How much money?
Monetarily, no.
So Mike Florio set the over-under at $14.5 million, and he said that he's leaning over. So a bunch of things that I saw that said that like it's going to be 13 at least, and then Florio bumped it up to 14.5. Now, I'm sure he's getting whispers at the number, but also keep in mind that could be an agent or his agent putting that out there. So then every other coach that comes along will get that kind of money. So the entry level, and these aren't publicized. Like they don't have to be public because there's no salary cap or anything like that on coaches. So for years, people didn't know how much Bill Belichick was making. And it was thought to be upwards of $20 million because he was also like the president and ran the organization. But so it's thought that low-level or entry-level head coaches now make about $8 million a year. So think about that. Nick friggin' Sirianni's making at least $8 million a year, or that's what he's going to be making after this, right? He's going to be making more than that. So, I mean, if Nick Sirianni, and he's going to need an extension, he's not going anywhere. For people out there that still don't want to give Nick Sirianni credit, what's he making, 12? I mean, what's his agent saying, 15?
Well, he's going to come to the table and say, hey, I've taken you to at least a Super Bowl, maybe 2.
Let's see what happens here.
Maybe 2 by the time the conversation gets had. You know, we win an enormous amount of games with me as the head coach and Jalen as the quarterback and all of this. We've had a rotating carousel of defensive coordinators, a rotating carousel of offensive coordinators, and I have and I'm playing Nick Sirianni for a second. I have the 5th best win percentage of all time.
His record speaks for itself.
Right, exactly. So he's going to come to the table with a lot of ammunition to say, I want X amount of dollars.
And the Eagles are going to counter and say, we value you, Nick, and you're absolutely going to make a big paycheck. Also keep this in mind, that if you were to go to another organization, would you have this level of success, right? So yeah, almost like if you're Nick Sirianni's agent, you don't want to get too nuts and say, hey, he's a $20 million. No, like take the money that he's worth, which is life-changing money for generations of his family. Take it. So Ben Johnson goes to Chicago. Not surprised. They at least have a quarterback. A lot of the other spots I would not have went to if I was Ben Johnson. There was a lot of smoke out there about the Raiders that was being put out by people like Diana Rossini, which is total crap.
I would have never, if I'm Ben Johnson, because Ben Johnson basically has the pick of the lot, like kind of what he wants.
They have no quarterback.
Zero chance. I know the Bears have a lot of issues, but they got the quarterback. They've got some skill position players. There's no way I would have taken the Raiders over the Bears.
And I don't even know if I like Caleb Williams, but you can't argue with the talent that he has as number one pick.
He's better than Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell.
And they don't have a high draft pick. So it's one thing if you have the number one pick and you can say, all right, like now I get a quarterback too. So that was easy. And that was crap that he was ever going to the Raiders. So it wasn't going to happen. So I see Pete Carroll could possibly going to the Raiders. That's a fresh rumor out there. Aaron Glenn looks like he's signed, sealed, and delivered to the Jets, according to multiple reports. But who's going to be the Cowboys' next coach? It's weird because the odds have been, and this is at least on DraftKings. I know some places don't do head coaching odds, but they keep putting it up and taking it down. And at one point, Dion was like the favorite, and then they put that down, and now he doesn't really, like if they were going to hire Dion, wouldn't they just do it? Or is Jerry just going to play this whole thing out like a reality show like he does with everything else? To me, it doesn't feel like Dion's going to be the Cowboys coach. To me, this is Jerry flirting with Dion because they have a relationship and Dion's hot crap. And, it makes sense for both of them to talk about. I wouldn't go to Dallas if I was Dion, at least not right now. So the favorites right now are Kellen Moore, former offensive coordinator. Mike McCarthy got rid of him because he wanted to call his own offense. He wanted to run the damn ball. Mike McCarthy did. Kellen Moore wasn't doing enough of that. So Kellen Moore going back to Dallas, or current Cowboys offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer. So these two seem like it's going to be one of them. And I've seen from Cowboys sources that people that are kind of in the know, I've seen both names mentioned. If I was to bet right now, I would say Kellen Moore. Makes too much sense, especially if they keep winning.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that one.
Schottenheimer, I think Cowboys fans would be pissed. Kellen Moore, you can sell. Look what he did with the offense in Philadelphia. Look at they run and blah, 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 blah. To me, is Kellen Moore a head coach? I mean, he's had numerous head coaching cycles where he got interviews and he didn't get the job. So what does that tell you? It tells you that he's not impressing these teams during these interviews. Nick friggin' Sirianni had an interview where he was wearing a Tommy Bahama shirt, I think. And he impressed the Eagles to where he's like, you know what? We like this. We like the energy. We like the enthusiasm. We like the excitement. They didn't have to hire Nick Sirianni. Kellen Moore seems like a different kind of coach to that. He may just be a coordinator, but it doesn't mean that he can't be good in Dallas. It's just that he's not going to be that alpha coach. He's going to be just kind of another guy that comes in there. So I would predict Kellen Moore to the Cowboys. Saints Mike McCarthy seems like would be the leader in the clubhouse. For the Jags, and you have Trevor Lawrence, so you have a quarterback. Maybe you don't like Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback, but Liam Cohen from the McVay coaching tree. He was Tampa's offensive coordinator this year. He seems like that he could be the leader in the clubhouse right now. So I teased this a couple times. A former Eagles player that played in a Super Bowl is in line to be an offensive coordinator, is getting, and I know you like trivia, Tyler, is getting an interview with the Seahawks to be their offensive coordinator. He started in a Super Bowl for the Eagles.
Wow.
Any guesses that who this could be?
Started in a Super Bowl for the Eagles.
Offensive player.
Oh, I would imagine. So offensive coordinator position, you said, right?
He's second interview, this time in person. He had a virtual interview. And now he's having a second for offensive coordinator of the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about guys that were starters who no longer play, obviously. So
I remembered after seeing the story that he had been an assistant coach. I didn't realize that I forgot that he was an assistant coach with this team. And then I was like, oh, okay, I remember that now. And I remember that because of Vitae.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
His nickname was Honey Buns. Hank Fraley, former Eagles center. Interviewing he's been the offensive line coach for Detroit now since 2018. Here's a quote from their starting center, Frank Ragnow. Isn't that such a center's name?
By the way,
Frank Ragnow.
That Lions offensive line is
really
really good.
They have some real talent on there too. They're really good. He said, you refuse to let Hank leave. I haven't played in this league without Hank, and I don't plan on doing it. I'll sabotage him. I'll leak stories, whatever it takes. So he's interviewing, second interview with the Seahawks to be offensive coordinator. Now, the Lions need an offensive coordinator. Now, this gives him all the leverage in the world to say, like, hey, listen, I can stay and be the offensive coordinator, or I can go and be the offensive coordinator. Normally, centers aren't known for their scheming. You have to be on the McVay tree, or you have to, like, Ben Johnson's known for being like a great play caller, a great schemer, very innovative in what he does. Very, it has a really great mind for being a offensive play caller. I mean, I don't know if he can do any of that, but anyway, that's interesting. Also, former Temple Owl head coach and current Notre Dame defensive coordinator Al Golden, seems like that he's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator. He was asked about it after the game last night, and he really, he said, I can only think about this game right here. So it would make sense to be a defensive coordinator of a team like the Bengals that has a ton of talent on offense, even though it's a terrible franchise, terrible organization.
Yeah, I mean, that defense was single-handedly the reason as to why they didn't make the playoffs this year. I mean,
he coached there before too.
Like, and Jamar Chase had one of the greatest seasons of all time offensively, right? And the run game, Chase Brown, despite the fact that he didn't start till like week 6 or something like that, ran for over 1,000 yards. Like, this is a team that offensively can't do much more, right? And I know they have slow starts to the year, and that kind of cooked them, but offensively they were pretty darn good again this year, and their defense is trash. Mm-hmm. And it's been that way for a while now. Now they're going to lose T. Higgins likely in the offseason. So how does this team respond? Like, how do they get better enough to make it back to the playoffs?
Draft and develop on defense, man. I don't know, with that talent, I don't know how you don't make it. But anyway.
Well, and the thing is too, they've drafted a couple of guys who I think can play defensively. Like, over the last couple of years, they added Akeem Davis-Gaither, who was a starter despite the fact he was drafted, I think, in like
is he related to Omar Gaither?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Probably not.
They've drafted some dudes who can play, but other than their pass rush, which was good, and Davis-Gaither's played well, like they have like Logan Wilson, I know missed a lot of time this year on IR, but they need a lot. They need a lot of defensive help.
Well, so that's Big Al. Now you got me thinking about Radio Row.
Oh, my bad.
I hate New Orleans. Really, like if there, I don't know if there's another place that I wouldn't rather go than New Orleans for a Super Bowl on a Radio Row.
I've never been to New Orleans.
And by the way, hang on. If you're watching on TV, switch over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the show. Hooah! Go ahead.
I've never been to New Orleans. I went to. I know it's party scene and whatnot, and it's a lot of boozing and everything. When I left Vegas, we went to Vegas probably about 5-6 years ago. When I left Vegas, I said I had a blast. It was great. And if I never go back again, I'm not going to be like upset. I feel like I'd feel the same way about New Orleans. I would have a ton of fun for the 4 or 5 days I was there, and then leave and go, yeah, I'm good. At some point, like, you want to go out and you go, yeah, let's go party, let's hit the town. And then by like day 3, you're like, all right, I'm good.
I think for someone from Philly, like, yeah, you go once just to see what it's like, but Bourbon Street's a freaking dump. People taking pisses all over the place, street hookers. Like, nah, I'm cool. Just dirty. And like, it's a shame. And it's also very violent. It's a shame because there's great spirit in New Orleans. And by the way, it's not New Orleans. it's New Orleans. It's not Louisville, it's Louisville. But I like the people and there's a great spirit. The food's good and things like that. It's just like, if you're thinking French Quarter, like the last place you want to be is a Mardi Gras, unless you're 18 or 21 years old. Last place you want to be in the world is friggin' Mardi Gras. But it's the French Quarter. I don't know. I mean, it was like, I don't want to go back. I do want to go back to Vegas. I've been to Vegas many times, but I'm also not jonesing for it. If I got an opportunity to go back to Vegas on a business trip or something, I'd be like, oh, awesome. But I'm also not at the stage in my life where I need to be at clubs or gambling, I gamble, don't get me wrong, but anyway. All right, switch over to Ant. He's live as we march towards the NFC Championship game. Everybody that's out there watching live, or even if you're just watching later on YouTube or you're listening to the audio podcast, thank you. And remember to subscribe. It helps everybody find us. It puts us in the algorithm, so then you don't have a choice. Then it's only going to be recommended to you that you watch it. So like and subscribe, comment on the episodes as well. We like to see your feedback. And if you get a chance to watch it live every morning at 8 o'clock, 8 to 9 a.m. on PHLY, then you can get involved in the chat. And the chat's always very active. We have our regulars. We're creating a community here on the chat. Tyler, going forward, we should definitely do I hate doing Ask Me Anything because it feels so 2014 to do that. But something where the mad chatters, comments, questions, or suggestions, or a mailbox, and then we answer them live on the air.
Yeah, we're just not calling it mailbox because every podcast and every platform ever has the mailbag and mailbox segments. So we'll have to come up with something better naming it. But
we need something different because the AM, AMA, Ask Me Anything. It's not I don't want to. We'll come up with a catchier name, but yeah, that. I think that would be fun. So we appreciate all of our people that watch live and watch later on. But just however you need to watch. That's how you can do it, including you can watch on Xfinity and Roku and Samsung Plus. Also, our audio-only podcast listeners, thank you. Subscribe, rate, give us a great 5-star review. We appreciate it. And the podcast is always posted. If you're watching on YouTube and you say, hey, I could listen on the way home from work, or I could listen to work, going to work. Maybe you start a little bit later. Podcast gets posted right about now every single day. We're back tomorrow on a Wednesday leading into the NFC Championship game here at Philly. It's going to be a good week. We'll talk to you then. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.